Hello, mathematicians. Welcome to day 3 of lesson 26, relating decimals and fractions. Today we do some work on writing the decimals as equivalent fractions. Important work, especially when it comes to your money. All right, so decimal notation. Here we go. Here's our warm-up. Write each decimal in a place value chart. So we got 3 problems to do. You only have 3 places, so you only need to make 3 places in your chart. So you can see that there's 3 places, 1, 2, and 3. Some people leave a place for the decimal, but it really doesn't have its own place. It's just the marker that lets you know, oh, you're going to less than $1, less than 1 whole, right? Part of a number. It's just a sign for that. So let's put ones. Tenths is our next place. And then this is, I'm going to put hundredths. I'm going to label it that way because writing out the whole word is hard with my finger marker. So the first one is 0. And so this is where your decimal is going to be, right on this line, because that's the point between ones and then part of $1. Whole numbers, part of a number. Okay, so 1 and 84 hundredths. Number 2, we actually have some holes because on the left side of the decimal we have $7. And is that 50 cents or 5 cents? What do you say? What do you say, Ben? I agree. It's like 50 cents because it's 5 tenths. We'll just put the 5 there. You could put the 0 in the hundreds. It would still be equivalent, but we're just going to follow the exact pattern that they have. Number 3, 2 and, how do you say it? 3 what? 2 and 3. Yep, you're right. 2 and 300. So it goes 2 and that lets us know we're going to have part of a number. We have 0 tenths and we have 3 hundredths. Well, 3 pennies. People who do it money style. Next thing, we've got Eli. So we're going to do our first read is going to be, what's the problem about? Eli collects animal cards. He says that 0 and 5 hundredths of his card are endangered animal cards. What fraction of his cards are endangered animal cards? So the problem is about what? What do you say, Reagan? I agree. Eli's collecting animal cards. It's about cards. Some of them are endangered. What are we trying to find out for our second read? What are we trying to find out? Eli collects animal cards. He says that 0 and 5 hundredths of his cards are endangered animal cards. What fraction of his cards are endangered animal cards? So, Gracie, what are we trying to find out? I agree. So it's going to be a fraction for the endangered animal cards. Okay, so be careful because we're doing decimals, we're doing fractions, and maybe thinking percent. This one we want a fraction. All right, third read is the important information. Eli collects animal cards. He says that 0 and 5 hundredths of his cards are endangered animal cards. What fraction of his cards are endangered animal cards? Yep, I agree 100%, Michael. That is the important number, and that is how much of them are endangered, right? All right, so on the next slide, I start the work, but you're on page 545, the same one. This is where it tells you, maybe you want to use these tools. Base 10 blocks. Probably you don't have those at home, but hundreds grid you have attached to your Google Classroom and hopefully this video, if I figure that out. Hundredths decimal, place value charts, you can make one of those. Number lines, you can make one of those. All right, so which way do we want to do this? So we want the answer as a fraction. We want to change 5 hundredths to a fraction. It's kind of pretty basic, isn't it? Because it is so connected to with how you say it. Let me go ahead and use the hundredths grid because that'll be an easy, quick model. So if you've got yourself a hundredths grid, let's see if I quickly do. Not that one. Here it is. Okay, so here's our hundredths grid. And then I'm going to move myself out of the way, go to the drawing tool. So I'm just going to use one of them because I need 1/100. I would like to draw in green. And we had 5/100. That only means 5 of the 100 cards. So that literally means if I could draw, why can I not draw? Because I'm not clicking the right tool. 1, 2, only 5 of them are filled out, 5 out of 100. So it means 5 out of 100, 5/100. That's our answer. As I'm sure a lot of you got really quickly. So easy, quick model would be to use the hundreds grid. Probably the place value chart would be pretty easy. I guess you could do a number line. That wouldn't be too bad, but you're going to get the answer of 5/100 because you want a fraction answer, right? If it's percent, it's 5% because percent's all based on the 100. Get your number to the 100 and then you can do the percent. Ask your partner, why did you choose that strategy? Okay, so a model I used was, I chose the hundreds grid because it was very easy to just click in 5 little spots. Once I got there, it was quite easy. So that made sense for me. And let's look at a few other models. So you might have done the place value chart. That would be a pretty easy one to do because you're just making the 3 parts, your ones, your tenths, your hundredths. You add the THS because that means part of a number, and then the decimal goes there, right? So 0 and 5. That shows the decimal. That's supposed to be hundredths. I promise you that is hundredths because it's the second place over. So you could put it in there and then you would just know to write it as this. I don't know. That would be a pretty easy way to do that. Let's see what else. Oh, there's the fraction model using the hundredths chart. I agree. That one's a pretty easy one to show. 5/100 because 5 out of 100 is 5/100. There's the place value chart. All right, so page 546 will show a much better picture than I quickly drew of that. Let's see what else we have. I'm just going to go back. If you didn't want to do number line between 0 and I think I would go, gosh, 5/100. I guess you could do 5 out of 100, but it seems like it'd make more sense because it's 5/100. It's literally part of 1. It's not half. It's not 0.5. It wouldn't be here. It would really be this tiny little spot right there. It's not very much, right? We saw the hundreds grid. So maybe you could do that and put 5/100 there. It literally means cutting this up into 100 pieces. So that's probably why the number line is not really useful. You could put this as, 50/100 to help anchor yourself. 5/100 is very tiny compared to the whole thing. Okay, how can the model help you write a fraction equivalent to 5/100? So the model that was the hundreds grid, it really can help you, don't you think? This go all the way back, whoops, all the way back, not that far back. That model really helps because it really shows I have 5 in cards out of 100. It's a great visual model for that. So even for those people that were, as a mathematician, you want to think about which model best shows your thinking. I really like this model because it's a great visual of that. Because sometimes people still get confused on the 0.05 and they think half, because often 5 means half. All right, so how can the model help? It shows the relationship to the whole. It really shows that it's a very tiny part, and that's important about a visual model, is to kind of show the relationship there. Next one, how can the place value chart help you write a fraction? Well, it really helps a lot, doesn't it? Because the place value chart tells you which words to write. We know that the words that you write or the words that you say are you could always look at the last place. So it's going to be 0 and you say this number, which is 5/100. That's how the place value chart helps you with what to say and what to write. So it helps you write it because it lets you know what number goes in what place. Really keeps you organized. Use words to describe the fraction of Eli's cards that are endangered animal cards. Okay, so now we're just putting in words, which we have said many times. I kind of like the idea using the words 5%, but we're doing fractions and decimals. So if you agree, you could write it as Eli has 5%, or 5% of his cards are endangered. You say 5% of Eli's cards are endangered animal cards. Probably in the answer book it says, I'll use words to describe the fraction. Well, I'm describing the fraction as a percent. Using words, you probably would say 5/100ths, right? Because that would be the fraction, 5/100ths. So you can change that to 5/100ths if you want to do it that way. Next one, what fraction of Eli's cards are endangered animal cards? Okay, so fraction. So that was percent version. Fraction version is 5/100ths. Explain how you can write a decimal in hundredths as a fraction. So this is good. We have percent version here, fraction version here. Now we want decimal version. Explain how? Well, let's write it first. I guess to explain that, I would say you use the place value chart. Right? Get everything in the right spot. So you put it in the hundreds place. 5/100ths, fraction style. Please let me write. Please let me write. Fraction style, percent style. To write it as a decimal, you just got to get things in the right place. There's 5/100ths, you put it in the hundredths place. Love how it all connects. Super fun. Look back at your try it strategies by classmates and model it. Which model or strategy do you like best for writing a decimal in hundredths as an equivalent fraction? So for writing, if you have to write it down as an, let's see, what do you like best for writing a decimal? If you want to put it in decimal form, if you want to write the decimal in hundredths, what model do you like best for writing a decimal in hundredths as an equivalent fraction? It's kind of confusing sentence, isn't it? Well, let's just see which one you like best. It's kind of confusing. So do you want to write it as a decimal as an equivalent fraction? So it's equal to the fraction, but you're writing the decimal. Either way, which model kind of makes sense to you visually? Do you like the place value chart? Do you like the hundredths model? Do you like a number line? Do you like to think of it like percent? Do you like to think of it like money, even though it's not a money problem? So there's few strategies. Which one am I liking best right now for this one? Well, for this one, I really like the hundreds chart. It just, to me, that visually shows 5 out of 100. It's like, it's just right there. So for me, I am going to say I prefer the hundredths chart because you can visually see it easily. 5 out of 100, right? That gets me to the fraction, and I know when I see 5/100ths, it's very easy for me to write that as a decimal because that means 5/100ths. So for me, I'm that way. Now, if you get these places mixed up sometimes, you might prefer the place value chart. Okay, so it depends on what you are as a mathematician. Alrighty, so that's page 547, reflecting on what you have learned. Page 548, write 0.9 in words and as a fraction. Show your work. Words and fraction. Okay, who wants to say this one? All right, Elle, how would you say it? 0 and 9/10. That's how you would say it. So that's what she said. I agree. 0 and 9 tenths. All right. And then write it as a fraction. Show your work. Well, our work is using the places there. So that is our work, I guess. I'm the answer for that one. And then we need to write it as a fraction. To write it as a fraction, I guess you could just remind yourself that this is the ones place and this is the tenths place, and the decimal's here, right? We got a 0 and a 9. So 0 and 9 tenths. If you need the place value chart, that might help show your work. If you've got it in here, you don't need the place value chart. So I'm fine with just that answer. But you need to write it as a fraction. 9 tenths, 9 tenths. That's what I love about tenths and hundredths. It just really makes sense. Cool beans. All right. Write 0.89 in words and as a fraction. So we have to do both words and a fraction. Show your work. So your work, if you need them, go use the tools. If the work is here, let's just write out the answers and that will show that you got it. 0 and 89. So we know that that will be what wants to say that one. All right, Michael, what do you have? 0 and 89 hundredths. I agree. Do you agree, Jonah and Jordan? You'd say 0 and 89, because you say that whole number, which is 89. Then you put in the place, the last place, hundredths. Okay, that's the words. So hopefully you agree with those. Seneca, how would you write that as a fraction? What would you do? Yes, I'll use pink. I agree, Jenica. So you would put 89 hundredths. Cool beans. I agree. All right. Number 9. Here's your exit ticket for today. Page 548. Then you get a couple pages on your own. Select all the fractions that are equivalent. This is one of those select all, so you must check them all. A, B, C, D, E, F. We got 6 to check. That are equivalent to 0 and 2 tenths. All right, Cameron, what do you have? Does the first one work, Cameron? Let's check that one. 2 hundredths. Is that the same as this? Yep, you're right. It is not, because we are in the tenths place. We've got 0 and 2 tenths. Is 2 tenths the same as, so we've got 2 tenths. Is that the same as 20 hundredths? What do you think? What do you think, Gabe? You are right. They are equivalent because you are right. You can do times 10 to the denominator, times 10 to the numerator because you're multiplying by 1. Yes, I agree. All right, Bryson, what about letter C? 2 tenths. Does 2 tenths the fraction equal 2 tenths the decimal? Winner, winner, chicken dinner. I agree. What about this one? 20 tenths. Is 2 tenths the same as 20 tenths? Does that equal or not equal? What do you think? What do you think, Cole? Yep, you're right. That's not the same. Not equal. That's the symbol for not equal. Because this would be 20 divided by 10. That is 2. 2 wholes is not the same as 2 tenths. No. What about this one? 100 divided by 2. Yeah, Tate, you're right. Totally not happening because that would equal 50. 50 is way bigger than 2 dimes. $50, 2 dimes. Yeah, not happening. What about next one? Letter F. 10 divided by 2. Who's got that one? What do you think, Peyton? Yeah, you're right. Denied. Ooh, denied so much I got level big. So that is equal to 5, which is not the same as 2 dimes. All right, you get to do page 549 and 550 on your own. Give that a go. And have a wonderful day. Goodbye, mathematicians.